Off and running on a Thursday. It's 7 minutes past the hour. Welcome inside the vault for a Ravens lunch hour live stream. I'm Bobby Trossett, joined as always alongside Sarah Ellison. Yet again, it's a packed one, and it's brought to you by our friends at GEHA. That's Government Employees Health Association. We are running a couple
one with
minutes
stuff.
behind.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a packed one with stuff coming out right before we were prepared to come on air. So we're like, nah, we got to bring this in. It's too big.
That's all it is.
Yep.
We're just gathering, and what we've gathered is a lot of commentary and reaction to the new look Lamar Jackson. We've spent a lot of time in terms of explaining what it is that he looks like, how many pounds yesterday he's dropped, and what that might mean moving forward. But now the national reaction, some internal reaction is starting to pour in. NBC analyst Chris Sims had some thoughts. Isaiah Likely, who just popped on with our girl Kay Adams, has some thoughts, and they're very different thoughts. One has concerns, others is saying, get ready to light the torch. Because
yeah, he's like, this is what I've seen. Yeah, not projecting. Here's what I see.
Oh, yeah. Plenty of chatter along the lines of Nate Wiggins as well in terms of his weight. Apparently, we're going to have a conversation about weight and overall physique. So Nate Wiggins just caught up with Glenn Clark of Glenn Clark Radio here in town and made a pretty strong, and in quotes, to use his exact words, a scary guarantee about what's coming for him. We got some schedule speculation in terms of what's coming for the 2024 season, some free agency potential additions in the minds of Jeff Zaribek and others. Plenty to get to, but we'll begin with something that I just found maybe within the hour or so. Chris Sims and Mike Florio on Pro Football Talk had this to say from Chris's former quarterback mind. He's actually slightly concerned about what this weight shedding, this weight loss might mean for Lamar Jackson's play moving forward. Here he is.
Worry about is he's just doing it because of speed. That's what I worry about. He's getting, because I've seen this in an NFL locker room too. Getting a little older, I was always the fastest, and now people are saying I'm not the fastest. And I'm going to try to lose weight. And within that, sometimes you lose your muscle and your explosion and all that too. And I just hope that's not the case with Lamar Jackson, because we know we want to see him at his best.
I think it'd be great to go back to back. What do you think? We just pull in the other side immediately and get Isaiah's thoughts, and then we'll react on the other side.
Okay, sounds good.
So I guess he said he was like 230, 235 my rookie year. And then now he's slim. So like the first time I seen L, he came back and we was throwing. And like I'm walking, I'm looking up and I'm like, who is it?
What?
And then and he run over to me. I'm like, man, ain't no way. What you ain't been eating, L? And he's like, man, like I'm good now. He's like, I'm back running how I am. And then
don't scare me now. Say what?
I'm just gonna say now, if y'all thought L was fast before, L couldn't get caught before.
I'm leaving. I can't. I got this weebly wobbly Bengals helmet back there, just trying to hold on. And you're telling me right now that he's a 205 fast. His strength and conditioning coach Scott Elliott said he's never been more excited in April for Lamar Jackson. Are you telling me that there's yet another level to this cat that we have not seen, this MVP?
I don't know if unanimous is going to be the word this year. That's all I'm going to say.
So Ravens tight end Isaiah Likely catching up with friend of Sarah's, Kay Adams, there on her show. Just literally.
Like we've been like childhood friends, yeah.
just right before in-season friends. Let's call it that. You're an often guest on that show. But Isaiah making it pretty clear that, and you wonder if it's slightly an exaggeration that he didn't recognize him. But just to revisit yesterday's conversation along the lines of the numbers, he's now revealing that he's weighing in at 205 right now prior to camp. That's down 10 pounds from last year and down 25 from what he once was at a maximum of 230. So
let's just down 7 pounds from his listed weight in 2019, which was 212.
His unanimous MVP season.
Yes.
So you've got Chris and by the way, I think some are reacting slightly. Oh, how about overreacting to what Chris had to say online? I think he's coming from it at an angle of, as a former quarterback who, okay, let's be honest, he's Nobody's ever really touched the speed. He was not known for his speed, Chris Sims, but not many are when it comes to Lamar Jackson's. And so he's coming from the angle of, I think, protecting himself and the durability that comes with being an NFL quarterback. You have Isaiah out here comparing it to what he's already done at that similar weight. And I know that's where I fall in this boat. I respect and I hear Chris's thoughts and concerns, but Lamar's already done this before. And as RG3 told us recently, he doesn't do anything by accident. And I think this is no exception.
Okay, real quick. Let me go in sequential order. Can you play? It was like really short, right? Can you play Sims again?
Yeah, we'll play Sims back.
Okay.
Pro Football Talk.
About is he's just doing it because of speed. That's what I worry about. He's getting because I've seen this in an NFL locker room too. Getting a little older. I was always the fastest, and now people are saying I'm not the fastest, and I'm going to try to lose weight. And within that, sometimes you lose your muscle and your explosion and all that too. And I just hope that's not the case with Lamar Jackson, because we know we want to see him at his best.
Okay. So I listened to that whole segment, to be honest with you. I didn't really think Sims was saying anything crazy. Like, I don't, nothing that I would like lose sleep over or be upset about or even tweet about, quite frankly. Like, I wouldn't even, listen, it's the off season and everybody's, and whether Lamar gains weight or Lamar loses weight, everybody is asking, how is that going to affect his game? Okay. So if you listen to the whole segment, he goes on, he's like, and I don't even know that that's what's happening. Right. He's like, I'm just talking about what could potentially happen. He later says like that may like Lamar may still have all of his muscles. So I don't think he was like coming at it in like a,
zero agenda.
Yeah. There was like, he read the news and he's like, here's what I know from my experience that it's potentially that you could lose muscle or whatever. Based off of the way Lamar's physique has looked to me, he's like lost, it's like all upper weight, right? Like when he was at his biggest, like I saw it in his midsection and you could see it in his arms, like especially in 2022, but 2023, I felt it in his midsection.
Okay.
So anyway, I just don't think that like Sims said anything crazy there. Like it's what could happen. Now, meanwhile, Isaiah Likely has actually seen him. So Chris Sims and everybody else, it's like, hey, what could it mean for 205? Isaiah's seen him. And Isaiah, that's hilarious to me that Isaiah's like, wait, who is that down there? And he's like, oh, that's L. That's my guy. And then I just love it the way Kay reacts. She's like, don't even tell me. He's like, oh, if you thought L was fast before.
She's sunk in her chair out of fear.
She's sunk in her chair. And we just had the screen grab over it. So that's good that you gave that background to it, that she's like what I'm seeing is she's off her chair. She's not just sunk in it, but like fell out of it, right?
Fell out of her chair.
Fell out of her chair because it's like, wait a minute, we've seen how fast he is. So to Chris's point, is he partially doing this to get speed? Probably. But let's not forget, here's the thing. Here's what I want to point out. It's fine to speculate. That's what we all do. That's what all these shows do. Here's what I do know. The athletes that we've spoken to were concerned when Lamar put on a lot of weight. And they were concerned that actually more injuries would happen there because you can lose flexibility. You can lose, again, elusiveness, all that kind of stuff. I'm talking about Kadri Ishmael, RG3, Skeptic Goat, who's been on our show before. And all those people have applauded that he's now taken back off the weight. So it's not like he was already at his normal weight and then he dropped all these pounds, right? Now, he is, again, below that 2019 weight. And I still think it's possible that he goes back up to that 210 area, which is what he was at 219. Mm-hmm. And I say that because when the strength and conditioning coach spoke, he seemed just glowing, like he had a canvas of art that was just blank, and that he could build it into whatever he wanted to be, like this pile of clay that he could mold it to whatever he wants it into. So I still am not sure he'll stay at 205 the whole season. But here's what I do know. If he gets back to about the 2019 weight, around 210, I know he didn't have any injuries that year. And I do know that when he put on the weight, and maybe it has One thing doesn't have to do with the other. But I do know that his 2 injured years, he had, a little bit more weight. So that we know. Whether that's just correlated or that's just happenstance, because he happened to get hit in a certain way, I don't know. But here's what I do know is Lamar seems to have been for the last couple years trying to find the weight he feels best at.
Mm-hmm.
And he put on the weight and didn't seem to like it. And now he's going back the other way. Clearly, according to Isaiah, has his speed back. And so it's just, and that's what actually Chris Sims said if the clip went longer. He went on to say that's just what these guys do. We all try to find the exact right spot where we feel best. And I think that was his overall message, was like, I think everybody's just trying to figure out where you're at. Here's some things that could happen on either end of the spectrum.
Sure. That's fair. You want to know what I know?
What do you know?
I know that regardless of his weight, if he's healthy, the Ravens have a chance, pretty darn good chance to play in January, regardless of the weight.
Like January or February?
I'm just saying the Ravens.
If he's healthy, the Ravens are going to the playoffs in January.
Period.
Yeah.
I'm saying regardless of weight, if Lamar is healthy,
got you.
They go as he goes.
Yeah.
And that has been proven time and time again. So this is your classic offseason discussion. Here it is, making its rounds. It's going to the national side. It's now going internally.
Yeah.
But who are you going to trust? Right? Who are you going to trust? You're going to trust Lamar's track record? You're going to trust somebody that's shared a quarterback room with him, like RG3, who says things like he doesn't do anything by accident? And you're going to trust the people internally right now, like Isaiah, who have played with him for a couple of years now, who have rapport, who have seen him, and are now hyping him up. Whether that's gassing him up or not, Lamar has the track record to trust his offseason regimens.
Well, I don't even know that it's like about trust to me. To me, it's like because and this is why I think it's a fair offseason conversation. It does have an impact. And again, it's split seconds, but that's what this game is all about. We saw him lose his long speed. We saw him lose it. Like we saw it on the field. So that's why it's a legitimate discussion to be had. He's also playing with his weight because it has a legitimate impact on the way he plays.
Yeah.
Now, again, it might be split seconds, but that makes a difference between whether or not you're able to go to the house and like not let somebody, shoestring tackle you because you are out of their reach.
Yeah.
And so to me, it's not even about trust because Lamar even said himself he wasn't quite sure how he felt at each weight. So I trust that he didn't feel great at the higher weight. And I trust that he's going to eventually find it, but he's looking for it. Like he's openly said he's looking for it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. How about some classic? You mentioned off-season discussions.
Yeah.
Something that always comes up this time of year, which, unlike Chris's comments in our minds, this has a little bit of an agenda-driven schedule to it, and that is the quarterbacks rankings. Every year, typically around this time, actually, it's usually a little bit later. It's usually like early summer prior to camp. But anyway, one of the CBS analysts came up with quarterback rankings entering 2024, power rankings. Okay, what's his name? Cody Benjamin. Here it is. He's got Patrick Mahomes 1, Brock Purdy 2, Josh Allen 3, Joe Burrow 4, CJ Stroud sneaks in his top 5, coming off a stellar rookie season, and the 2-time reigning MVP, Lamar Jackson comes in at 6, Jalen Hurts is 7, Dak Prescott is 8, Justin Herbert is 9, and Jordan Love rounds out his top 10. This to me is nothing more, nothing less than engagement driving rankings. You sneak CJ Stroud ahead of Lamar. Others have as well. Who had that? We covered earlier in the offseason. Acho? Was that who it was? Emmanuel Acho, maybe, if I'm not mistaken. But
I don't remember.
Now Brock Purdy's played in a Super Bowl, but are we putting him ahead of Lamar? I mean, this is a ridiculous list that is designed for engagement driving, and that's exactly what it got. Now, we did not interact with it on Twitter. Now, did we? We took screenshots of it. We're bringing it over to YouTube, and we'll interact with it here.
Well, here's my question for you. When you say this is engagement driven, do you think that he actually is putting in a ranking he doesn't believe in to push engagement?
I think he's like, all right, there's like a razor. Some of these are razor thin margin differences. But you know what? How can we get the people talking? How can we get the people going? Does he truly believe that CJ Stroud should be ahead of Lamar?
Listen, I don't know the guy, so I hate to put motives in people that I don't know. Even people I do know, it's hard to know people's motives. I do agree that quarterback rankings are engagement driven.
Yeah.
Just in general, wherever you have the list,
yeah,
they're engagement driven. For sure, they are.
Yes.
And that's okay. Like, if you're going to engage with it because it's a fun debate, like, why wouldn't they do it? Now, can I sit here and say this guy is purposely this guy really thinks that Lamar's, say, number 2, but he's putting him at number 6? I'm not going to go there.
We can't.
And here's why.
We can't prove it.
Well, we can't prove it. Plus, what I can prove and what I do know is that people have their own biases and beliefs at what a good quarterback stylistically should look like. And I just don't think that people have come around yet to a different way of playing quarterback.
And they may never.
Some may never. I think some have. Like, you've heard people like John Harbaugh say, we've revolutionized it. And I think that when I was listening to some of the draft nicks like Daniel Jeremiah and Bucky Brooks and tons of others, they've talked about how the way people look at quarterbacks are a bit different. They are looking for a guy who can threaten with their feet, that it can be more athletic and all of that. So while I do think it is changing, I don't know this guy to be able to say he just doesn't believe in the style that Lamar plays, or if he just has a bias towards drop back guys that are going to throw it, 50, 60 times, you know what I mean? Just a ton of times. So I can't sit here and say he's being disingenuous with this list.
We can't prove it.
I just don't believe it. I don't even think that's a hunch that's on my mind.
Really?
And that's fine that you do. That's fine that you do.
Yeah, part of me
I
does.
don't.
Part of me does.
I would first go to people don't believe in the type of quarterback that Lamar is. That's what I first go to, because anytime I do a positive tweet about Lamar, there are always people like, yeah, he's great, but you just can't win with the way he plays. You can't win it all with the way he plays. And then every time that the Ravens come up just short of the Super Bowl, that's what they say. Yeah. They'll either there's just the true jerks, right, that just poo-poo everything he does, or it's the people that are like, sorry, he's good, but clearly it's not like that. You just can't win this way. Like, that's what people constantly say. So my mind goes there first.
I got you.
But I do agree with your statement that it's a ridiculous list. I'm going to say something that I really don't think is hyperbole.
Yeah.
With 2 MVPs, one being unanimous, being a touchdown leader in 2019, he was touchdown leader, but also a passing touchdown leader. With his win percentage and how many times he's made it to the playoffs, clearly he and the Ravens haven't won the Super Bowl.
A lot of which has been with a lack of supporting cast until recent seasons.
At wide receiver, he's had a great supporting cast elsewhere, good defense. Offensive lines have been pretty good. I take out the Villanueva year.
Yeah. But
great tight ends.
His running backs have been very inconsistent, though, in terms of availability during those mid-years.
Very true. Very true. Yeah. But his resume already is on a Hall of Fame mark.
Oh, yeah.
And even if he weren't to win a Super Bowl, and we all want that to happen, that's the goal. That's Lamar's goal. Lamar's not thinking Hall of Fame or anything like that. He's thinking Super Bowl, Super Bowl, Super Bowl, as he should. But even if he weren't to win one and he continues doing what he's doing, look at the other Hall of Famers, the ones that have made it in that didn't win a Super Bowl.
Yeah.
And so to have him as number 7, the reigning MVP, it's silly.
Was he 7 or 6?
It's definitely silly.
6. Jalen Hurts was 7, but yeah, right there.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a silly chart.
Let's get to some Nate Wiggins chatter. And before we do, this episode is brought to you by our friends at GEHA. That's Government Employees Health Association. From unexpected medical expenses to growing your family, GEHA has you covered with a health plan for every season of life. Government Employees Health Association has offered medical and dental benefits for more than 87 years, and they are designed to meet the needs of federal employees and retirees, military retirees, and their families. And with over 2 million members and counting, GEHA continues to serve those members and families who serve all of us every single day. The Government Employees Health Association, a proud partner of the Baltimore Ravens and your friend in federal since 1937. You can learn more by visiting GEHA.com, and we have a direct link for you in the show notes below. So, yesterday at One Winning Drive, Eric DeCosta was kind enough to host a group of local reporters in the media in the Ravens War Room, where they get their draft days done all long weekend a couple weeks ago. And it was a film session that he hosted and a discussion about the team's 2024 draft class. So there are a couple things that came out of this. First and foremost, you grabbed a couple nuggets that you felt like were relevant about Nate.
Let me put some context on this. I had a lot of stuff pulled out, but when all this new Lamar stuff came out, we're going to push it to tomorrow.
Oh,
right. Yeah. So we won't get to all of it today. There's some pretty good nuggets in there that were pretty good. But because Nate Wiggins went on the
Glenn Clark show,
and he had a very strong statement there, I was like, all right, let me just pull Nate Wiggins, what EDC had to say about Wiggins, because the two kind of go together.
Okay. So how do you want to go order wise?
Let's go with I want to hear what Wiggins said. I haven't heard it yet. You kind of called me and said that that what he said was pretty good. So I'm excited to hear it. Yeah.
Perfect. Yeah. My pal Glenn Clark does a great job. He's a hustler, gets a lot of great guests here locally in town. We used him recently to share snippets from Rashad Bateman's conversation that he had. And so today, just within the last hour or so, he had Baltimore's first round pick out of Clemson, the cornerback, Nate Wiggins, on his show, and talked about the criticism that he's received, or perhaps maybe the questions is more, or how about the skepticism? That's probably the best word, about his weight and how it might translate to the next level. Nate's response, box office.
Yeah, when people bring my weight, I just feel like I just say like at the film, you don't really see folks pushing me around. Mm-hmm. Like I don't get pushed around. I mean, you probably could say I miss tackles, but I mean that's human. So I mean, yeah, I'm only 20 years old. I ain't even like build. I ain't even like got my fully self yet. So I just feel like what I do now, and if I gain when I gain 10, 15 pounds, it's just gonna be scary. So that's all I look at it as.
Is that something that's a priority for you, like in the off season and going into the season?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Gaining 10, 15 pounds, that's like my number one goal. Like that's my number one goal.
So just in case you missed that, look at the film, he says. You don't see me getting pushed around. I'm only 20 years old. I'm not fully grown yet. When I gain 10 to 15 pounds, it's going to be scary. Gaining 10 to 15 pounds, that's my number one goal this offseason. Apparently, it's the conversation in the episode of weight. Weight gaining, weight shedding, two opposite ends of the spectrum. But there you have it. He's a dog, and don't allow his mumbling or sort of soft tone to confuse you. Do not be fooled. Do not be fooled by that at all. He's a dog.
And as I've said before, do not be fooled by strength versus toughness. And I think that's his point. You see anybody pushing me around? I'm put on. My coaches are putting me on the best receivers week in and week out.
Yeah.
At Clemson.
Yeah.
So we're not playing like this lesser competition.
Yep.
You're playing, fast, big, depending on the week, whoever you got. Did you see me get pushed around? And I got to tell you something, Bobby. Let me tell you this. I'm actually happy he's underweight. And here's why. For now, here's why. No way would that man have fallen to the Ravens at 30 if he already had put on that 10 to 15 pounds.
Yeah.
There's no way. And that when you're picking at the end of each round, that's what you have to bank on. So I like it. Listen, rookies often come in a bit naive, not quite right. The other veterans haven't even come in yet. He did talk about a little bit about how, the speed is faster and whatever. So a lot of rookies, all of them, Kyle Hamilton has had it. Patrick Queen had it.
Yep.
All of the great picks have had it. They're going to have a rookie moment. He's going to have a rookie moment. So he'll have that. But I love his confidence.
Yeah, me too.
He'll be humbled for a minute, but because of that confidence, he'll be able to rise above it. And 10 to 15 pounds, that's a lot. That's a lot in one off season. That's a lot.
But they have a plan, like Eric talked about.
As Eric talks about. So Eric, that's a perfect segue. Eric was asked at the beginning of this session. By the way, they air the session of when they have the Q&A, but before it, he brings them film, and he does film breakdowns. They don't air that part, but boy, would I like to see that part. I would love to see EDC breakdown film. So that's quite a treat for the dozen or so reporters that were in there. But he was asked about it, and here's what he said just yesterday.
So again, I think information, oftentimes you try to use it in your favor, right? So there was like this perception that Nate was like this skinny guy. And, I think at one point he weighed 175 pounds. He got to the combine, and I think he was 184, 186, something like that. I don't look at it as much of a problem. I think there's an opportunity for us to get him stronger. I think we do a good job of that. Again, I saw a guy that was a competitive player. I saw a guy that wanted to be a physical player. Getting stronger is only going to help his game. So if you love his game now, then you have to be really excited about what he could be. So I think his future is very, very bright. He's a sponge. He's going to want to work in the weight room. We've got some great mentors with him down there. Guys like Roquan and Marlon's a great example of a guy that's always trying to improve. I think Sarah Snyder, our dietitian, is the best in the business. And she'll help him quite a bit, and I don't really see it as a problem.
Yeah, so that's the general manager and the first round pick don't really have a problem. And he said there's going to be a plan, and Nate revealed that it's putting on. Here's my question. I wonder. He said he wants to put on 10 to 15 pounds. I wonder if he's talking about from where he's at right now or from where he was at, because Eric Costa said he was like 170 something, and then he was like 184 or something like that at the combine. Yeah. So I just wonder if he's counting from like when he was 170 something, or is he counting from where he is right now, the extra 10 to 15?
Get eaten.
But
what about that trait? What about that one trait?
Okay, so this is kind of cool. So the next question following that is the reporters talked about the opposite of wide receiver, right? The Ravens seem to hit on first round corners. I can't remember off the top of my head.
Marlon was one of them.
Have they ever swung and missed on a first round corner? I can think of safety. I'm thinking of Matt Elam.
Yeah.
But have they just swung and missed on a first round corner? Let us know in the comments if you can think of one. But if they have way more triples and home runs. And so they asked him, like, what is it that you guys do to make sure that you're hitting all the time at cornerback? And so he explains his methodology, saying each cornerback has to have a trait. And so he kind of goes through different traits of guys he's hit on. And then I felt like passionate for EDC because he's always like straight faced. Talks about the trait for Nate Wiggins.
I think corners have to have traits. They've got to have some outrageous traits. Marlon was just a big physical guy who ran fast, a little stiff, but a physical, tough competitor. Jimmy had, freakish size and just a natural athlete. and could cover and ran well. Chris McAllister had, just unbelievable size and explosive ability to knock the ball out. Dwayne Starks, I scouted Dwayne when he came out. It was a long time ago. But Dwayne had, pound for pound, was one of the toughest guys and ran extremely fast. But he was tough, feisty, competitive. I look at Nate as just great feet, speed, coverability. Guys don't get open against him. He can just flat out cover, and that's really important. His quality, his superpower is when he's covering a guy, there's going to be very little space. He's got ball skills. He anticipates well. He can close and he can recover. So I think, you want an all-around guy. You want a guy that does everything pretty well. But when you're talking about a first-round corner, you want traits that will put them ahead of everybody else. And I think he shows that.
Notice how he's able to just rip off these. It's been years and years for some of these guys. Dwayne Starks came into the league and Eric's just able to rip off the traits that he liked about them at the time.
Yeah.
That's a guy who's been around for a while.
These guys are encyclopedias. Scouts are encyclopedias for sure. But I loved when he's like, receivers just don't get open against him. That's a pretty good trait, which is kind of the point what Nate, I think, was making. He's like, do you see people push me around? If they were pushing him around, they would be open. They're not open. He's like, there's just going to be very little room. So you just get a mosquito in there, even if he was still at 170, whatever. He just having a mosquito with his long arms in there and just being annoying and swiping at the ball and all that kind of stuff. And then, you add some weight and then you got some tackling ability and, maybe stuffing them at the line a little bit. So now this is one where I feel like it's going to be all good. It's going to be good.
Let's hope. And I can't wait to see what he's looking like in a couple months from now when they start training camp. Because if he's serious about putting on 10 to 15 pounds, that's the type of thing that maybe it won't be crazy noticeable, but because of how skinny he is, maybe you'll get a small little inkling. Maybe not when he puts the pads on, but
that's the other thing is some of this is not even, it's just growing into your grown man body.
He's 20 years old.
Yeah, I mean, there's a massive difference. It's interesting grown man strength because sometimes you'll have a 20, 21-year-old, right? And they still can't take their dads that are a whole generation ahead of them, right?
Yeah.
And their dads are older, and it's there is something about grown man strength that just doesn't quite go away. You may not be as fast, you may not be as elusive or anything like that, but there's something about it. And so when he starts to grow into his some of this weight is just him still maturing into that body.
Right.
Yeah.
Let's shift gears to next week and the 2024 NFL regular season schedule release, which we now know is set for Wednesday night, the 15th at 8:00 Eastern. You and I are going to be live that night. We'll give you more details when we have them in terms of when we plan to start our stream, who we're going to have on, and things of that nature. So looking forward to that. Obviously, the home opponents and the away opponents, we know what they are outside of the division. You've got home games against the Vegas Raiders. You've got the Denver Broncos coming to town, along with the Buffalo Bills, Washington Commanders, and Philadelphia Eagles. On the road, again, outside of what?
Yeah, that's not even it's the slide before. I brought in the opponents there just so you could see after kind of this statement, so we can kind of give possibilities to what this is talking about. I saw a few people talk about they got a letter yesterday from the Orioles, and on September 8th, which is opening weekend of football. Okay, there is a Thursday night game, and we already know that it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. They're going to host because they're the Super Bowl champs. Who they're hosting, we don't know yet. The following Sunday is the Sunday kickoff for the whole league. And so Orioles sent out an email to their ticket holders and said, hey, we're changing the game time from 1:35 to 12:05. Okay. And so Matt King is one of many people I saw online saying, could that mean that the Ravens are playing Sunday night at home, September? And now here's the thing. The Orioles and the Ravens, to the best of my knowledge, have never played on the same day. And that's because they share parking Lots.
And it's a cluster, you know what?
It's a cluster down there. And on top of it, the Ravens open Ravens Walk. I just looked this up to be sure. It's on their website. They open Ravens Walk 3 hours before the game. So if you have an 8:20 game, Ravens Walk is opening at 5:20. That gives 5.5 hours for baseball to clear.
Yeah.
So people are wondering, is that enough time?
Well, what I'm wondering is, wouldn't it be a surprise to not run back the AFC Championship rematch on Thursday?
Well, that's the other possibility. So you
Wouldn't
have
that be a
this.
surprise, though? Like, to not run that back?
Yes. Well, no, it wouldn't be a surprise to me. And this is what I had brought this part in for. So if you look at Kansas City's home opponents, I think there's 3 very good options. Obviously, the Ravens being one. Bengals would still be good, though. They've gone head-to-head in the AFC Championship game, and then it would be Joe Burrow's debut coming back from injury.
Yeah.
Or the Houston Texans, the hot and upcoming team that got knocked out in the divisional round.
Right.
So any of those 3 could be it. And I'd almost put Bengals and Ravens kind of on the same footing there.
Yeah.
Right? In terms of like, that'd be a sweet opener. And then you could leave open. I mean, both of them could be primetime games later on.
All 3 of those like potential opens would be great. It's like what's hot right now, and like coming off the AFC Championship game, you would think that that's still in a lot of people's minds.
For sure. So that's why I think Baltimore makes plenty of sense.
Yeah.
I'm just saying I wouldn't be surprised if it were the Bengals or Texans.
Yeah, I got you.
You
just
see
to
what
finish,
I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And then just to finish
Yeah, go ahead.
Outside the home, outside the in division opponents, I gave you the home games, and then for away outside of division, it's like we said, at Kansas City, at LA Chargers, at Dallas, Houston, New York Giants, and Tampa Bay. So what were you going with there?
Well, I just brought that in to go off of this to say, if it's moved, is there enough time? And who would that home opener be against?
Mm-hmm.
Could be Steelers.
Yep.
Could be the Browns. I'll say this: if the Ravens are playing on Sunday night in prime time, I would think that the Chiefs would have had the Bengals. I mean, it could be Houston, but I think it would be the Bengals.
Sure.
And so that takes the Bengals out. I mean, I don't know. There's plenty of good options. You could do Browns, Steelers, Bengals, or Bills to open things up.
There's going to be so many good matchups next year. And the best part of it, on Wednesday, you get to start planning your fall out. We'll see what am I going to come up with this year on a bye week? Who's going to be going down to, where are you going to go this year? You're going to go to LA? You're going to go to Dallas? You're going to go to Houston, Tampa? I mean, those 4 right there are pretty great road sites.
But listen, the question I have for you, here's the question I have for you as somebody who goes to your fair share of Orioles games. Yeah. Would that be enough time? You got 5.5 hours.
The answer 12:05. Absolutely yes.
Okay.
Yeah, the answer should be absolutely yes.
Because I know that there was a day where they had a Stevie Nicks concert at M&T Bank Stadium.
That was Harry.
That's what I'm saying. That's what you would be dealing with essentially.
Yeah. It certainly wouldn't be routine.
Well, it's never happened.
It's never, like, has it really never happened?
I'm pretty sure it's never happened. It's never happened since I started covering the team.
And that's been
because remember the whole we were so ticked off. The year after the Ravens won the Super Bowl, the tradition is that you always open at home as a Super Bowl winner and you kick off the year. And instead, the Ravens had to go to Denver as their home opener after winning the Super Bowl, and then they got shellacked.
Yeah.
And Ravens fans and everybody was ticked off. It was like, that's not how we were supposed to open the season. And it was because the Orioles had a game that day and they wouldn't budge. Now there's new ownership.
Yep.
So does the new ownership for the Orioles open up the door for them to be playing on the same day because there's a little bit more collaboration?
What a fun day for the town, right? Assuming that at that time,
yeah,
assuming that at that time, the AL East and playoff race is heating up, and perhaps the Orioles are, got a nice little lead over the Yankees and the rest of the division to try and get after that pennant. I mean, that's going to be coming down to the wire. One of the most anticipated Ravens seasons, given the new heights that they reached last year, is going to be on deck. That'll be a fun time for Baltimore if that happens. Regardless, it's going to be a very fun fall knowing that the Orioles are a legitimate World Series contender. So good stuff there. And then you had this from Diana too.
Okay, well, I just thought this was funny from after working there, so I'll give some context afterwards. But yeah, she writes, I thought this was funny. I just spoke to a head coach about the schedule release for next week, and he said, right now, the only people staying late at the facility will be their social media team preparing for their Super Bowl. He called it their Super Bowl. But I will tell you, the schedule release videos over the last several years, I cannot tell you the resources and time and the brainstorming and the creativity. Every team is trying to outdo the other team with a creative way to release these videos. And I feel like the Chargers are always number one.
Everybody's trying to keep up with them.
What's that?
Everybody's trying to keep up with them.
Yeah, everybody's trying to keep up with them. And I feel like the Ravens have had there's never been a bad schedule release, but I feel like they've definitely had some years better than others. And I have to tell you, as somebody who would try to help in those board meetings and come, it's not easy to come up with phenomenal ideas, which just makes me
every single
appreciate. Because it's every year. It's how many different ways can you just announce the dates? Because you already know the opponents, right? But and so I just thought it was funny that the coaches know, the front office executives know that this is I don't know if I would call it their Super Bowl, but it's a big deal. And I guarantee they're all hard at work in their media departments trying to figure out how they can do this.
Well, we're closing in on it. Wednesday, 8:00 Eastern. Looking forward to being live that night and hope you'll join us for our evening. So tail end of free agency is where we are right now. A lot of these veteran wide receivers I've noticed are starting to come off the board. You wonder if the Ravens are in the market. We will see, I'm sure, in the coming weeks. But Jeff Zrebiec of The Athletic, as you took a look at in his recent piece, started to kind of mention a few names that might make sense, not necessarily at wide receiver for the Ravens.
Right. He went at all sorts of positions. And I'll get into some ones that I found more interesting. I've just pulled 3. But he had a lot of names. So I'm just going to tell me if any of these stick out to you. So at safety, he's got Adrian Amos and Justin Simmons. I'm actually going to go more in depth on those 2 later, so we'll come back to that. At running back, he has Dalvin Cook. Quick, yes or no to Dalvin Cook?
I wouldn't mind. I wouldn't mind having him around.
Okay. Maybe practice squad again?
I felt like, you know what? On Dalvin, I felt like I left last season wanting more.
Ooh, okay.
Craving more. I'm not confident that he has more to give.
Right.
But it left me, from what we saw, it left me feeling like it was untapped.
Okay. Inside linebacker, he's only got 1 here. He's got Zach Cunningham. I just don't think they're going to add another inside linebacker, I guess. But Jeff's point was as insurance to Trenton Simpson, because there's really no insurance beyond Trenton Simpson. You have a lot of guys that have more been special teamer inside linebackers, not we think he could start for 17 games. So I think that they're not going to sign any. If they sign an inside linebacker, it'll be after they get a look at Trenton Simpson in camp. Okay. At wide receiver, here's the 2 names he's got. Corey Davis, who is unretiring, and is 29, and then Marquez Valdez-Scantling. So Scantling, so he's
Chiefs wide receiver.
Yep, 6'4", 206 pounds. He's a bit older, but that's what they're looking for as a veteran. 17 yards per catch. So neither of those really move me, but
when you look at, if we're strictly speaking to the wide receiver position, and they're not going to break the bank, then he would make sense. Marquez Valdez.
Yes, I would say he makes more sense
than a Michael Thomas. Because Michael Thomas has the durability concerns in recent years and is probably going to be, not probably, definitely going to be more expensive than MVS.
I don't know that any of them are going to be very expensive, to be honest with
but
you.
but
is one going to be less expensive than the other?
Two.
Yeah, you're probably right. I was going to look up how durable he's been, but I'll just move on. Oh, don't give my stuff away here. I got to leave that for last.
Oh no.
Yeah. I'm going to pound the table for that one. That one I'm going to pound the table for here. Hold on a second.
I got
okay.
You.
All right, let me get back to where I was. Here we go. Outside linebacker, he's got one more. Emmanuel Ogba.
Yeah.
I don't know. I feel like they're pretty set there. What
about Josh Ross? I want to see what he's all about. He was hurt last year. Josh came in undrafted out of Michigan and lit it up a couple summers ago. I would love to see him take a step and be used as sort of like last year's, I guess, Dalen Phillips in a sense.
Yeah, that's more inside linebacker though, right?
Yeah, sorry. Were you referring to?
Yeah, this was an outside linebacker.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
No, but I hear you on Josh Ross.
Yeah.
He's got 2 offensive linemen, one guard / center. So he's got Dalton Reisner and Connor Williams. This one, I feel like because they signed, who did they sign? Josh Johnson, is it? The veteran they signed before the draft. That's their guard insurance, I feel like, already. So I don't know that
Josh Jones.
Josh Jones. There you go.
Yeah.
Josh Jones. And they gave him guaranteed money in that.
Yeah.
And
that tips the hand there.
Yeah, I feel like I know that we expected them to draft more there, but we're already in the territory of maybe needing to cut Saleh.
Yeah.
And you know what I mean? Because Voorhees is there. So I don't know. Maybe, again, I feel like an offensive lineman would be more after you get a look at guys at camp.
Yeah.
Okay, so those were those. Now I want to dive deeper into Adrian Amos and Justin Simmons because I think there's a legit chance that the Ravens could sign one of these two.
Okay. Because they've already been in on it. I mean, they've shown interest in Amos in the past, and
correct.
He's a local boy too.
Correct, and that's pretty much what Jeff's kind of logic here for Adrian Amos is that they were pretty far down the road last year, but then Chuck Clark got hurt. And so then the Jets kind of swooped in, ended up getting Amos. Now he ended up getting cut later in the year. But because they were so far down that road, maybe they revisit that and he'd be cheap. And I do think they need a safety. Yeah. Now, Justin Simmons is an intriguing one. He's definitely, I think, the best left of the bunch. He'd also be the most expensive, and he might just be waiting the way Kyle Van Noy did last year, where he's like, I'm not giving in. And like, I want to have a great spot. And then he ends up signing week 3. So maybe Simmons could be a guy that's like, let me wait till somebody gets hurt and you guys need a starter. So that might be what he's doing, but he's a 2-time Pro Bowl selection with 30 career interceptions. Simpson might be the top free agent at any position still available. If the 30-year-old is looking for another nice payday and guaranteed starting job, Baltimore probably isn't the place for him. However, if he's trying to chase a ring and is intent on joining a top-flight defense, signing with the Ravens would make sense. The Ravens use a ton of 3 safety looks. By the way, I kind of want that just so that we can put Hamilton in the slot. He was so good there.
Wherever
and I know we have other slot corners, but it's not Hamilton. Like I'm thinking of the balls he batted. He just was so good there. And so it's one of the reasons why I really want another legit safety, is so that he can have that flexibility, Hamilton. Yep. So anyway, Zrebeck says the Ravens use a ton of 3 safety looks, and having a guy like Simmons would give defensive coordinator Zach Orr the freedom, as he's saying, to move Hamilton around. There are a ton of accomplished veteran safeties still available, including Micah Hyde, Quadre Diggs, Eddie Jackson, and Marcus May. Simmons is probably the best of all of them.
It's compelling.
It'd be nice. It'd be pretty expensive. Do you have any preferences here?
I think that they've shown you what their preference is, and I'll give them the benefit of the doubt with Amos. You know, he went to Calvert Hall. Yeah. Still got some playing days in him. They were in on him, like you mentioned. So, I mean, if Simmons might be the best fit in terms of
just because he's the best
at this point. Yeah. I mean, fit. Yeah, exactly. Fit because of ability.
Yeah.
But what's most feasible feels like Amos, just based on recent history.
Yeah, I'd agree. Now, Jeff, he may have created a monster here.
Yeah.
Oops,
sorry.
Sorry. You know, I've been pounding the table for a legitimate backup quarterback.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have not gotten rid of the wounds from 2021 and 2022 when Lamar went down.
Yeah.
And I know the Ravens already have a number of quarterbacks.
Five.
I know. None of them, even Josh Johnson, who I know, and they probably, I don't know if they've promised anything to him, because I'm sure he could sign in many places.
Oh, yeah.
He came back for a reason. But Bobby, I want somebody who can keep things afloat if Lamar misses 6 games.
Is Ryan that guy over Josh or
yes
or Leary? Yeah, you think so?
What has Ryan Tannehill has 3,500 yards in his career. He's been a starter. Josh Johnson's been more of a journeyman. He's won playoff games. And oh, by the way, he's done it with the Ravens' new starting running back, Derrick Henry.
What you're concerned, though, about Leary,
correct.
Your concern about Leary would be a similar one. Now, with Tannehill's game, right? So that's where that was my first thought.
Well,
the mobility side is that's not going to be an easily translatable thing if something, God forbid, were to happen with QB1.
Totally hear you. And it's only because of the addition of Leary that has maybe been like, oh yeah, Ryan Tannehill. Because clearly the Ravens aren't concerned because they drafted Leary as the backup quarterback of the future.
Yeah.
Right? So if that's not going to be a concern, then why not get this guy? Because we all know Devin Leary's not going to be ready this year. So if you're not concerned about having a different play style at quarterback, which you're not because you picked him to develop him as the backup quarterback of the future, then why not go get a Ryan Tannehill? Now, he may not want to come because he may want to have a competition to be a starter.
He might be waiting since he's a free agent right now and he's 35. He could be one of those guys that's waiting for an injury to happen.
Sure. But, he could be Joe Flacco, right?
He could be last year's Joe Flacco, but and he might have to wait a while.
But I would like him to be the Ravens Joe Flacco. if Lamar were to go down. And this is the key. Here's the key line from Jeff. He names all the quarterbacks they already have on the list or on the roster. And he says, however, it would be hard to argue against the fact that Tannehill would be an upgrade over what the Ravens have as backup options. So former Pro Bowler, he could be the Joe Flacco. I just want somebody more legit there because I don't want the Ravens. We said it in the beginning, right? If Lamar's healthy, whatever weight he's at, they're going to be playing in January.
Yeah.
But if he's not healthy, we don't know that that's going to be the case. They barely got through in 2022 without him being there, and then they missed out on 2021. And Ryan Tannehill is a guy that could help you win, at least have a 500 record, if not better. If Lamar were to go down.
What continues I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that he would keep the team afloat. Just fit-wise, that would give me – well, then Derek would get about 30 carries a game. And then Ryan would be like, oh, I'm home.
Yeah.
Randy Hobson checking in on something in the live chat that continues to be not a mystery because the Ravens have pretty much told us how they feel about him. But Malik Cunningham does not look to be in their quarterback plans. So he's on the roster. He's on the 90-man. But to say that he's got a legit shot at the primary backup position to Lamar, I would think I don't feel confident about that at all.
Yeah, and this would be replacing Josh Johnson.
Yes.
He'd have the same shot. Like Cunningham isn't going to beat out Josh Johnson. Not at this rate. Not when they're still questioning if he's a quarterback or a wide receiver, which is what John Harbaugh said. And so what this really would do is impact Josh Johnson because Devin Leary would still be in the same position, and so would Cunningham.
Sure. Yeah, and they're certainly speaking as if Josh. They're speaking like Josh is your shoe-in primary backup day one, week one.
Yes.
And we'll see if that changes between.
Which is why, as much as I would love Tannehill, I give it like a 5% chance of happening. I just wish that we could all remember 2021 and 2022 more.
True. Nobody wants to, but you have to sometimes when you have a constructive conversation. Well, dating back to the 1996 draft, as Adam Schefter tweeted out, the Packers had Ray Lewis on the phone and were ready to pick him 27th. But right before they could, who swoops in at 26? The Baltimore Ravens. First year in existence, of course. And Patriots de facto GM Elliott Wolf was in the Packers war room that day and remembers it well. And we have a clip that goes along with this. Of course, Ray, all he had to do was quote tweet this, and he ain't looking back. At Ravens for life. Here's a clip there of, again, Elliott Wolf revisiting that day.
Who else stands out on that list that you remember him talking about the Packers drafting?
Ross Verbo was one. Picked in the guard from Iowa, picked in the first round. John Michaels was one, tackle from USC. Now, that one didn't work out. That's actually an interesting story because they were getting ready to draft Ray Lewis, and Baltimore picked him right before, the pick before, and then they ended up picking John Michaels. So he got his prediction right, but it would have been a lot better to get Ray Lewis.
Wait, hold on. So the Packers would have taken Ray Lewis if he were available, and he went right before them?
The pick before.
And were you in the war room to watch the proceedings surrounding that?
I was.
And what do you remember about that?
There was some disappointment because they actually had Ray on the phone. They were talking to Ray, and the Baltimore was still on the clock. Yep.
Really?
Yep.
And so what do you remember about that disappointment and then being on the phone with him?
Just, they thought Ray was one of the best players in the draft. I mean, there were games where Ray had like 20 tackles. And, I know that's easy to say now. He's one of the best linebackers of all time, first ballot Hall of Famer, all that. But, he was kind of seen as an undersized middle linebacker back in the day. And, he wasn't what we know as Ray Lewis now. So Baltimore obviously got a good one.
So Bobby, I've always seen this picture with him on the phone, right? And I always assumed that he was talking to the Ravens. Yeah. And maybe he is, but is he talking to the Packers right there?
That's fascinating. Schefter's just peppering him with follow-up questions.
Well, he wasn't helping. He was like, "Were you in the room?" He's like, "Yes, I was."
Yeah, no,
could you elaborate?
Classic front office individual, right?
I know.
That is so classic. But good revisit there. And one last quick hit as well. Last night was
Tell me what happened.
It's an absurd Orioles win. They never should have been in this situation to go to extras in the first place, if you ask diehard fans that are looking at this objectively. Craig Kimbrell, Sarah, is an all-time future Hall of Fame closer that the Orioles paid a boatload of money in terms of, at least from their organizational standards in recent history, to this offseason to be their closer. And Felix Bautista has been down, having underwent surgery last year. He was their all-star closer a year ago, and now they're without him all of this season. And so they're really in this state of limbo, trying to figure out who the heck is going to close out games for us. And Craig has really, really struggled over his last 5 or 6 outings. Mm-hmm. And so he put them in a situation where they lost their lead, a 2-run lead heading into the 9th. Ooh. And the rest was history. But the reason why the Orioles are so much fun is because their lineup is lethal. And it provides this kind of like the Ravens defense did for this new incoming Todd Monken scheme last year. It provided for this certain margin for error that I remember talking about last year. The Orioles lineup provides a certain level of margin for error for the bullpen inconsistencies earlier on in the season, for Craig Kimbrell sort of blow-ups that we've seen in the last couple weeks. So they're a lot of fun. They're atop the AL East. It's going to be really a fun summer, and they're a fun organization. And now their owner, David Rubenstein, is joining the freaking splash zone. He's going to be like the guest splasher this upcoming weekend. So, or soaker. I don't even, I've never sat in the outfield, but you've seen the the outfield bird station. So, why am I forgetting this off the top of my mind right now? But anyway, they're a lot of fun right now, and hopefully you'll be able to catch another game before this could be their World Series season. You never know. I
would love that.
So
we need both a World Series and a Super Bowl in
right?
the same year in Baltimore.
The Bird Bath Splash Zone.
There you
Excuse
go.
me.
I don't feel like that's too much to ask for.
Right? Wouldn't that
Right?
be?
Just give me both. Give me both.
Generational. Shout out Christopher Saxey and Big Fesh 927 for supporting us through Patreon. This is your monthly shout out. We appreciate you both. Thanks for all the support. And if you guys are interested in doing the same, you can visit patreon.com/RavensVault podcast to learn more about what we're offering. Chris and Big Fesh are on our $4.99 tier for monthly shout outs, and goes a long way on the back end for us. It would be wild this fall if both teams are chasing titles. This town, it's one thing to have this town be in a frenzy that it is right now when both teams are relevant, but like legitimate contending title teams, yeah, that's a lot of fun.
It's a lot of fun, which is why it hurt so bad last year.
It did. Two
Come
plays hurt a lot.
Yeah.
Appreciate you, Randy. Thanks for the super chat donation.
Love it.
Louisville.
Love it.
Lamar's Louisville. Very cool. Shout out Teddy Bridgewater. I know he's a former Louisville guy. I saw that he retired from the NFL and now he is coaching a high school team. I just thought that was super cool. Anybody who goes back to, I don't know if it's in Louisville or not. Maybe Randy knows wherever that team is, but he seems like a good guy. I know he and Lamar are close.
It's like our guest Ryan. What was his last name? That's been coaching Roger Rosengarten.
Oh, Tyler Columbus.
Yeah, there you go. Tyler Columbus. Apparently he said there were like 5 Super Bowl rings in the coaching staff.
9.
Well, it was 9.
9.
I cut it almost in half.
Roger Rosengarten's high school staff had 9 Super Bowl rings on it. That's also where the McCaffrey brothers played as well.
Yeah.
I want to say it's Valor. Is that right? Valor in Colorado?
I didn't even remember how many rings it were. I'm not going to remember the name of the high school.
Oh, man. You guys are the best for dropping by. If you haven't already done so, please like this video if you enjoyed it. Subscribe to The Vault on YouTube if you haven't already done so. Check us out in the audio-only space. Every single day, I repurpose our shows, our live streams to live in the audio-only space. So wherever you get your pods, Spotify, Apple, Google Play, it'll all be there within the hour every single day that we finish up. So shout out to GEHA. Awesome 2-week sponsorship with Government Employees Health Association. They were the reason why we were able to bring you the draft coverage that we did this year. And we really appreciate their support of our channel as we continue to grow. We are coming up on 17,000 subscriptions as I last checked.
How far are we?
We're like 10 away. Or at the time of this tape, at the start of it, we were
hit the like button.
Yep. Yeah, and that like button too. If you've already subscribed, just so you know, that like button pushes it out to other folks, the algorithm, and so they can discover us. And obviously, that goes a long way for us. So, with all that in mind, we appreciate you for dropping by this Ravens Lunch Hour live stream. We'll be back in 23 hours for a Friday version. And until then, enjoy your day. Thanks to Sarah, as always. Thanks to all of you for dropping by, all 2,000 plus concurrents. I'm Bobby Trossett signing off, and we'll catch you tomorrow.